Yeah, we call it clean. Welcome to round 3, know what I mean?
Return of the Mac. Conor is back. The Notorious One is finally fighting Saturday. However you want to put it, we're finally getting Conor Mania back this weekend. I've never been the biggest Conor fan, but what I'm a big fan of are polarizing figures in sports and spectacle events. And that's what we're getting with Conor McGregor and International Fight Week this weekend. So I am super excited. Plus, my birthday's July 12th on Sunday. So, I mean, what better way to spend my birthday weekend, right? Let's get right into this matchup. I mean, Conor McGregor, we know how he likes to strike. He has two versions of himself. He has that heavy lead foot boxing style, or he has that kind of lean back karate, light on his feet, throwing a lot of kicks. Gunnar Nelson really is who he modeled that style off of. That's who he used to train with. You know, we talk about his grappling. There's just not much to speak of. He'll grapple defensively fairly well. I mean, you saw he stayed upright against Khabib for as long as he could until that fight went the way that it went. But he's usually not looking to engage in grappling offensively. If he's getting rocked on the feet or if he's in trouble, he'll shoot some desperation shots, but that's about it. You talk about Conor's cardio, it's fairly bad. He's fine when he's the hammer. You know, early on in his career, you know, he had that aura around him, and I feel like that's really what carried him through his fights, more so than anything else. I mean, Conor is very, very basic on the feet. He's just very effective with what he does. He has very creative kicks, but as far as his hands go, I mean, it's simple 2 and 3 punch combinations that are fairly telegraphed. We move over here to Max. Max, we already know about his cardio. We already know about his striking. We already know about his grappling. I mean, this is stuff that we've talked about time and time again. I just broke Max down a few months ago, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but we know he likes to pump that jab, stay on his bike. Once he gets comfortable, he will plant his feet and start letting some mean combinations go. I mean, as Dustin Poirier. The reason I bring up that Dustin Poirier fight is because I feel like Max is going to look very similar in this fight that he did to that fight. He has the time to properly put on the weight and move up to 170. You know, the things that I've been seeing from his training footage is stuff that I love. I mean, it's all about just nutrients, you know, putting on clean carbs and kind of bulking up, you know, and he's able to just focus on his performance in camp. So, you know, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Max. You know, we talk about his grappling, though, just to stay on track here. And similar to Conor, I mean, he'll shoot desperation shots. I want to say Yair Rodriguez was a fight that he won basically from takedowns, you know, because Yair was snapping those kicks up at all 3 levels, and Max was having a hard time with it. So he was able to kind of tap into that grappling that he was known for earlier on in his career. You talk about Max's cardio, it's world class. I mean, this guy has, you know, well over a dozen 5-round fights in the UFC. That's all Max knows, is just to go, go, go. So that's what you're going to get from Max on Saturday. Matching these two guys up, you got miles, you know, miles on the tire versus time away, you know, and we don't know what either of these guys are going to look like. I mean, they both had pretty rough performances last time out, you know, Conor's being much further back than Max is, but I didn't like what I saw to Max against Charles, not at all. And I know that Charles is one of the most dominant grapplers in the UFC, and that's not really what Conor is, but I didn't like what I saw from him on the feet. I mean, he looked slow, he looked lethargic, he wasn't putting combinations together well, and I'm sure a lot of that had to do with the threat of the takedown. He just didn't want to open up, but Conor showed that in their first fight, it was years ago, it was a much lighter weight, but he did show that he can take Max down, you know, if need be. But you go over here to the other side, Conor, I mean, he's just been away for so long. 5 years is a very long time to not do anything, especially fight in a cage. So I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of just heavy boxing footage from Conor. I'm not seeing a little bit of defensive grappling I've seen. And obviously, I mean, what they're putting out isn't everything they're doing. But I like what I'm seeing from the training footage from Max more so than from Conor. And that's really, I hate to go off of training, but that's all I can really do with Conor being out for so long. I mean, you can go back to those, you know, Dustin Poirier fights, but I don't know how good it's going to do you being, you know, half a decade back. Ultimately, guys, I'm going to take one last ride here with Max. You know, Max is my guy. You know, as far as, you know, for my fandom, you know, I do like Max more than Conor, but just as far as this fight goes, I think Max is going to be able to stay on his bike and avoid the big shots from Conor, and I think Conor's got 5 to 7 minutes to get the knockout, and if he doesn't, Max is just he's gonna run away. He's gonna have a marathon. I ultimately see Max winning this fight in the 4th round, 5th round, or by decision. I know you guys hear me say that a lot, but that's one of my favorite plays, you know, in a main event where I feel like it can go late, and one of the guys has cardio issues, and that's That's how I feel in this fight. Conor has a puncher's chance. I don't think Conor should be this big of an underdog, but I think just the time away, the damage that he's taken, just the way that he's been treating his body outside of the cage over the years, it's all going to show itself on Saturday. So give me Max Holloway to win the main event over Conor McGregor at International Fight Week. We're going to get right in here to this co-main event. Paddy Pimblett versus Benoit St. Denis. This is one that I was not that excited for until it got closer. It's kind of one of those fights for me. Never been the biggest Paddy fan. Really never been the biggest BSD fan either. But I do like the way these guys fight. They get in there. They're gonna get in there and they're gonna slug it out. They're both grapplers by trade, but serviceable enough on the feet on both sides here. I think Paddy's going to be a little bit cleaner on the feet, but I feel like BSD is probably going to have the power. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. I do think Paddy has better jiu-jitsu, but I think BSD has better control grappling. So I don't know. I think if BSD does get into the ground, I think he may be able to negate some of Paddy's submission attempts, but I don't know for how long. And I don't know if damage starts piling up, on the side for BSD, if he starts, getting busted up like we've seen in the past, we've seen how those fights have ended. So the 5-round fight with Justin Gaethje told me everything that I needed to know about Paddy Pimblett. I thought Paddy Pimblett was a gimmick. I thought he just talked well. I thought the UFC was just kind of milking this, milking this cow, basically. That's kind of how I saw Paddy Pimblett, especially when he came into the UFC, 4 or 5 years ago. Man, has he proven me wrong? Has he proven me wrong and a lot of other people wrong? I'm a fan of Paddy Pimblett now. I really am. Not a huge fan, but more of a fan than I was initially 4 or 5 years ago. He definitely won me over. I'm more so like from being here, here's the middle, from being here. I'm more so here now, so not not fangirl screaming, but I respect him. I definitely respect him as a fighter. And just from what I saw his last time out, he's going to be my pick in this fight. I think I would feel more comfortable if it was a 5-round fight. I think BSD does have a chance to steal 2 rounds. I feel like he could get Paddy down. And if Paddy's just fishing for submissions and not trying to get back to his feet, and BSD's kind of racking up some damage and control time that way, that's where this fight could slip away for him. But I don't see that happening. I see Paddy just evolving. Every fight getting better and better and better. BSD is on a 4-fight win streak, though. BSD's last loss was that Dustin Poirier fight. And that's a fight where he was dealing with staph infection. And I've heard rumblings about the same thing going on in this fight. I don't know if that's just rumor. So I'm not really using that to gauge my pick at all. But you never know. You never know. BSD is someone who can push through, but he's someone who has just had cardio issues in the past. So enough rambling, enough babbling about that, guys. Paddy Pimblett is going to win the co-main event this Saturday at International Fight Week. Round 3 team. I got 3 confident picks for you. I got 1 underdog lock for you. Okay? First most confident pick. Kong Wang over Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez is just a pretty face at this point. I hate to say it. I don't think she really cares too much about her career. Kong Wang is a very, very clinical striker, and I think she's going to knock Tracy Cortez out in the 1st or 2nd round. Second most confident pick. Robert Whittaker over Nikita Krylov. Robert Whittaker, he's been saying it for some years now. He's a big boy. He wants to, he needs to move up. He wants to try light heavyweight. Not too sure about that. They have Robert Whittaker listed at 6 foot. I don't think Robert Whittaker is even 6 foot. Okay, he's gonna have a little bit of issues with the size, but just his in and out movement, he is one of the best strikers in the game. I'll be straight up honest with you. If you don't want to tell me on this one, that's fine, because Bobby Knuckles is probably my favorite fighter in the UFC. So there is some bias with this pick, I won't lie to you. But just skill for skill, I think he has Krylov beat everywhere. I think the cardio isn't even close to being the same. Robert Whittaker's been fighting 5-round fights basically his entire career, been in main events basically his entire career. So this is even though he's stepping up in weight, this is definitely a step down. I wouldn't say in competition, but just placement on the card. I mean, his last fight on the prelims is where this guy's usually never lower than the featured bout on a card in Robert Whittaker here. So Robert Whittaker over Nikita Krylov for my second most confident pick this weekend at International Fight Week. And my third and final most confident pick this weekend is Lone A. Kavanaugh over Brandon Royval. You guys know, if you've heard me talk, especially these past few months, I want to say my second prediction show ever back in February that I did. We went 13-0, and that was on a card that Lone A. Kavanaugh busted Brandon Moreno up. Okay, I mean, and I called it. Doing the film study, it was quite obvious. A lot of Brandon Moreno fanboys out there. Lone A. Kavanaugh was an underdog going in, coming in on somewhat short notice in that fight, but he showed what level he was on, even at the age of 26, 27, wherever he's at right now. I think Lone A. Kavanaugh is going to put on a striking clinic. Brandon Royval is going to be bouncing around and in and out and doing his thing, having that mean mug face that he likes to have on. But it's not going to matter. I think Lone A. Kavanaugh is going to put up north of 80 significant strikes on Brandon Royval just in this 3-round fight. And I see him getting a late finish. And if not a late finish, I see him hurting him real late, similar to like a Joshua Van did. I see this fight going similar to that. But Lone A. Kavanaugh being a little bit more dominant than Joshua Van was. So give me Lone A. Kavanaugh. It's my third and final most confident pick this weekend at International Fight Week. Round 3, Underdog Lock of the Week is King Green over Terrence McKinney. Like, these guys have been jawing back and forth, and it's funny because I actually just watched Jamal Hill's podcast a couple days ago, and he had a comedian on there. He's a comedian, and he's kind of like, he does little skits where, he pranks people, does silly stuff, and I've never watched any of his content, but I'm familiar with that style of content. And Jamal Hill kind of had to get this guy right because he was, he's a Terrence McKinney fan. I wouldn't even say fan. It sounds like they're friends, but so is Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is friends with Terrence McKinney and Bobby and King Green. And I mean, I won't. You guys just can watch the podcast. It's a funny episode because Jamal kind of got him right because he was getting a little reckless talking about Bobby, and saying how Terrence thinks he's sweet and this, that, and the third, and he's telling Terrence to go in there and submit him. None of that's gonna happen. Okay, none of that's going to happen. Terrence McKinney's going to come in throwing wild punches like he does. Bobby Green's going to, hands down talking, he's going to slip them all. He's going to knock this kid out. Terrence McKinney's going to get knocked out probably in the first minute or two in this fight. All right, he does have a chance to get this fight to the ground, but I think Bobby Green is just fine there. I don't think Bobby Green's going to have any issues on the ground. I think he can stay safe. And Terrence McKinney's an absolute gas bag, and Bobby Green can go 3 to 5 rounds hard, no problem. He showed that numerous times throughout his career. Bobby Green as round 3's Underdog Lock of the Week this Saturday at International Fight Week. That's it, guys. That's it. We got Conor coming back. We got Max trying to spoil this return of Conor McGregor, right? So, I don't know. This is going to be such a fun weekend. That's all I got to say. I appreciate you guys rocking with round 3. We got a ton of new subscribers this week. So if it's your first time here, you like this kind of content, check out the channel. I do live streams with my boy Chase. I'm constantly dropping shorts. An active channel here on round 3, okay? Appreciate y'all. I will see you next time in round 3.